Hey guys. Um, Give me a second or two. You know the routine. I'm never always prepared. Something like that. I do have water with me though, so when I have to get up and grab some water, we have a special guest. Hey, Selma. Hey, Michael. Look, since I've been absent today, that's okay, Michael. I had a 2 hour live stream. I was there. I went from 12 to 2. Did you find your way out of the woods? Hey, Toy Pups. Hey, Darren. Darren says, nice to see you again, Yogi mate. Nice to see you, Darren. Hi, Jessica. So, Jessica, we are going to do the breath work that we did earlier. Because, hey, Pinky, because I want to show Kat. We're going to do it for, and there's Kat. We're going to do it for 4 minutes. We did it for 3 minutes before. We're going to do it for 4 now. And then we have a special guest, Squirrel Sniper. Going to come up and talk all things Squirrel Sniper. And maybe we'll answer some questions. Is there anything you've ever wanted to ask Squirrel Sniper? Now's your chance. Hey, Lee. Hey, Nightmare. Stitch was upset because she missed the breath work. Now's the opportunity. So here's how we do this breath work. For those who weren't there or have the refresher, Bud Files, how are you, my friend? We breathe in through the nose. Nice and easy breath. Nothing special and not for any length of time. Just a regular easy breath. Through the nose, out through the nose. And then we hold. Count of 3. Take a couple recovery breaths. Recovery breath is just a regular breath. You can do 1, 2, you can do 3. Thank you, Sniper. And then you take that breath again. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. Recovery breaths. We repeat for 4 minutes. Any questions before we start? The breath is always easy. It's never forced. We always hold the breath on the out breath. And yes, you want to pinch your nose because it triggers the mammalian response, the mammalian relaxation response. It promotes a deeper sense of relaxation. This is for the proper management of CO2. And an out of balance CO2, carbon dioxide, is caused by rapid chest breathing, usually through the mouth, not always. You might be through the nose or through the mouth, which is the same way we breathe when we are in a high state of anxiety. So is it any wonder that we suffer from anxiety, right? Get a thumbs up from Jessica. Don't fall into that, Selma. All right, so let me bring up my meditation timer, which I still have set from before, but we're going to increase it to 4 minutes above the 3. This is a very, very powerful breath, and it's so simple and so easy, and there's no strain. I can only guide you through the first couple breaths, but I'll be talking throughout. Hopefully soothing and not irritating. I can make no promises. So let's begin with our eyes closed. Breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the nose. Get used to that habit of breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. No special, hey RW, no special pace. Just bringing that easy focus to the nose. On your out breath, just think relax. No effort into it. Just breathe in and think relax. In just a moment, you're going to hear a meditation bell, and I'm going to guide you through the first breath and the breath hold. I will be talking throughout, guiding you through it. Listen for the gong. And breathe in, nice and easy. Breathe out. Hold the nose for your count of 3. And then let go. And just breathe nice and easy for 1 breath or 2 breaths. When you're ready, breathe in again through the nose. Exhale and hold your count of 1, 2, 3, and then recover. We're going to proceed this way for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, that's all right. Now, when we rapidly breathe, we're mimicking anxiety. When we slow the breath down and when we take these easy breaths, we are entering into a state of peace. We are balancing and learning to have a better tolerance for the carbon dioxide, which means that we will be at ease and at peace through the rest of the day. We can return to this breath anytime. You can do this multiple times during the day. You can do it for a minute before any meeting, any appointment. You breathe in and you breathe out. On the exhale, you hold for a count of 3. And then you recover. And you repeat. The benefits of CO2 breathing. We're retraining our nervous system. We're calmer. We have more consistent breathing patterns. It regulates the nervous system. This breathing has been used therapeutically. It's an ancient yogic breath brought forward by modern science, and it can help treat panic attack, anxiety. The simplest breath with the most powerful and profound effects. Keep breathing, an easy breath in, an easy breath out, and hold. 1, 2, 3, and then recover. Repeat. We are in our last minute. The longer we do this, the more relaxed we become. Keep breathing. Very shortly, you will hear a gong from the meditation bell. Keep your eyes closed after you hear it, just for a few moments longer, allowing the breath to settle. Think that word again. Relax. And when you are ready, but only when you're ready, open your eyes, and I will see you in the live stream. And we will introduce our good friend, our special guest. Pinky, thank you. Pinky says, Yogi, you feeling okay today? You seem not sad, just a feeling. Yeah, there's been some things going on, but we're working through them. I got you guys to help me. I appreciate that, Pinky. Hey, relaxing. I appreciate that. I appreciate that intuitive sense. Somebody, how you doing? RW, how are you doing? Pinky, thank you. Well, Relaxing, thank you so much. Relaxing says watching last 4 videos, 3 live streams. It's a lot of yogi. Thank you, Nightmare. Um, Nick Fielder says, "Do you believe Jesus Christ is Lord?" I do, but I don't think exclusively so. I think Jesus set a beautiful and wonderful example for us all to follow so that we recognize the Lord within all of us, ourselves and others. RW says, "I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to hear you're doing good." Lee says, "Hey, Nick." Stitchy says, "Did you get see my last message about how I wasn't upset about missing breath work? I was a little old because I didn't know how to be able to come to this one." Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you made it. I did see it, but hey, Stitch, thank you so much for repeating it and knowing that I have a tendency to miss things. Relaxing says, "I'm with you, Yogi, my friend, with pleasure." Thank you, Relaxing. Jessica says, "Thank you, Eric, very much. I would love to stick around, but I have to get ready to go live. Have a good night, y'all." Jessica, if you're still here, let me put something out. If you want, drop your link. Guys, as we are doing this live stream, we're hanging out, having a conversation with Jessica. Swing over and give Jessica love and support. You can always swing back here. You can go back and forth, or you could stay over there. But it's important that we send love and support to all of our friends, but for Jessica tonight. Make sure that she knows that when she's talking, she is talking to people that love her. That's okay, Stitch. Didn't mean to put out. Stitch, you are such a wonderful person. Sniper, whenever you want to come up, I'll introduce you when you get here. Sniper says, "Take care, Jessica." I hope the breath work helped. Kat, how was breath work for you? Did anyone else participate? Stitch says, "Cat, cat, cat. Are you still here?" Blackking says, "It's not a big deal to help you from my honest heart. Always be sincerely." Just an awesome person, Relaxing. I mention often, I've lucked out with some good people. Stitch says I did it also. What do you think, Stitch? You know, when someone's panicking, what do we normally say? Calm down, take a deep breath, which over oxygenates the body, which reduces our CO2 tolerance. Kat says breath hold was a little hard. You can reduce the breath hold to a count of 2 if you need to, Kat. Nick says, "Why did Jesus say he is the way, the truth, and the life?" But remember, he said, "I am." It's a key phrase, "I am." No one comes to the Father except through me. Why would Jesus claim this and everywhere die for their belief that Jesus is risen? Um, Remember, he said, "I am." And, you know, it's probably a better question for Jesus than for me. Stitch says, "I loved it." Awesome, Stitch. And I'm not saying it in any way of making light of it whatsoever. Um, I was raised in the Catholic faith. I left it behind. I embraced yogic lifestyle, a little bit of Buddhism, a little bit of Sufism, some other weird stuff along the way. But I know what I think of I am is probably vastly different than yours. Hey, Praveen. Praveen, it's not just yogi time. It is Squirrel Sniper and yogi time. Whenever Sniper wants to come up. Fred Pup says namaste. So I am being the Christ present within us all. So the way to the Father is through I am. The way to Christ consciousness is through I am. If we think of it in terms of yogic philosophy, I am is the appearance of a self emerging from Brahma. Hey, I agree with you 100%, Nick. 100%, 1,000%, my friend. He did not come to start a religion. He came to start a personal relationship with us. Yes, through prayer. I'm down with that too. For a sniper, he should be here any minute. He might be saying hi to Jessica. Blackie says, like this, we go together. If we support True Straight, always be smiles and happy together in heart. But membership needs maybe someone will be thanks. Here he is. I will do my best to always support you, relaxing. All right. Before you say anything, guys, this is a true honor and privilege and pleasure for me. This is Squirrel Sniper. Squirrel Sniper magically and mysteriously showed up one night in my live stream, and he never left. Not only did he ever leave, he became a true and fast friend, always having my back through all kinds of every little YouTube thing that has ever happened. Sniper has been there. He's seen me through it. And we resonate a lot in our practices and our thinking. We also have some differences as well, but there's a vast amount of respect for everything that Sniper has to offer, and he's here to share it. So, the legendary Squirrel Sniper.
Thank you very much. Am I coming through okay? All right.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, I mean, what we disagree on is probably it's about truths, and we just don't know what the truth is. You know,
Right.
That's what the illusions are all about. You know. So anyway.
Hey, we already have a question for you.
Yeah.
This is from Nick, he's come in throwing some hardball. Does Sniper believe Jesus is the way?
Well, we have to take everything depending on where we are. Now, I would say it's difficult for me because I was brought up as a Christian, therefore I know what the story of Jesus was, but I believe now, afterwards, in reflection, that it's all metaphor, and whether or not there was a man called Jesus, I do not know. But there were many stories of a man before the time of Jesus, going back Sumerian, ancient Greek, and it's it's a saga of truths. So it's all true. It's just been told from a different perspective.
Right. Hey, while we're on the subject of Jesus, do you think, what are the possibilities? Some people said Jesus went to India. Those missing years went to India. I think Absolutely. I've heard you say before that you have read he went to Egypt, the mystery schools.
He certainly went to Egypt. He certainly went to Knossos. He went to the Library of Alexandria. All these areas where the ancient temples were. And the Greek Gnostics as well. You have to remember that the Gnostics were probably the second most prosecuted after the Christians, in fact. It's anything that was looking into the source of where we came from was going to be prosecuted if it's not from the Vatican,
What are your thoughts? I don't remember if it was yesterday or the Monday before, talking with Miss Flipper, Jesus being a Kabbalist, because he could get those wisdom teachings right there in the Jewish faith, in the
Yeah, for sure.
Jewish faith.
Well, I mean, you have to realize that Christianity is is very, very connected to Judaism. Muhammad is connected to Judaism. Everything is connected to Judaism. So what comes from the Hebrew is the Kabbalistic approach to the tree of life, which is completely separate to what any of the Christian or Catholic knowledge have. But there are a few crossing overs if you really look for them. But they will want to say that Kabbalistic is completely separate from Christianity.
You left Christianity.
Yeah.
Um,
Very early,
how
ridiculously early. You know,
with
the people I met afterwards and the Christians were saying, "Oh, you know, you're too young. You don't know what you were doing." I was like, "Well, it's my path that I believed that I should have been on, even when I was young. I was younger than when I was being taught maths.
well,
You know, I made that decision that there was something inside me that connected to the world that I could not perceive, I couldn't understand, but I knew it wasn't religious. It wasn't because I went to a church. It didn't happen in church. It happened when I was daydreaming, you know, and it's the lucid dreaming yet again
but
that, you know, we as children, when we observe a child play, we see the imagination. We can let a child use their brain and they can create anything they like. I used to love playing with just empty cardboard boxes. You know, I came up from a very wealthy family, and the presents would come out the box, and I'd be playing with the boxes, and it's all backwards. You know, I was kind of, you know,
I once, this was a while ago. This was way back when I first met you. I remember you saying that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth and
yeah,
decided to take it out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I found
It
that
was a tough decision, and it was going against my mum and dad. You know, they didn't want me to leave, but then they also wanted me to, you know, stand strong, and they'd always be there for me if I ever fell, which
right,
gave me the encouragement, you know, just to keep
right.
going.
Hey, not everyone would step up to take that silver spoon out of their mouth.
I know,
Uh,
but
you,
it was becoming mentally impossible for me to carry on. You know, I would say 90% of my friends, I'd bought my friends, and I'd come to that realization. You know, it, it was materialistic. You know, and
right.
if I decided that it wasn't going to happen, then people would get really upset and have a go at me. And it's like, well, this isn't a weekly thing that's going to be happening, you know. But then it did become a weekly thing at one stage because being a life path 5, you know, I've always struggled with finding a balance, you know, and until maybe 15, 20 years ago is where I really started to knuckle down. You know, before I had my children, I just got married, you know, and it was a time to really look at myself at what I was actually wanting to do. You know, I still really didn't know what I still want to do, and I still don't know what I want to do. I've still got lots of things to do. You know, doesn't mean that I'm still going to be a tree surgeon for the rest of my life.
I'm thinking golfer on the senior tour.
Wow. I, I think those issues with my back is because I played too much golf too quickly, too
Uh,
soon.
hey, I want to circle back. One thing our friend Alice Adams says, for my apologies. I didn't know who you were. She didn't recognize you
No
up there.
worries. No worries.
Two things I definitely want to talk about. I want to circle back to uh, leaving the church,
Yep.
your own wisdom studies, and has it changed your view on maybe not Christianity per se, but uh, Jesus?
Right. Well, um, I was about 8.5 years old in scripture, and I literally came to the conclusion. I was looking around at all the different friends that I had in the class, and they were from all different faiths. You know, we weren't all Christians in the room. So then that got me thinking, why aren't we learning about the other faith? And I realised this, you know, we are in a Christian school, but surely it's a school of education. But Christianity was just pushed and pushed and pushed. So that got me thinking even more, you know, and it was like, well, my friend, uh, he was from India, and I just brought up the question. I said, you know, we all have different faiths, and I could have been born in India. Therefore, I just certainly wouldn't have been Christian.
Right.
It's that simple. So we use religion as it's a guidance to the unknown, right? For me, it's a book that's been given to us by our controllers, and it has power inside that book. It has knowledge. It has so much esoteric knowledge in that book, and you could read it 100 times and not see any of those messages. It's designed that way.
Right. Hey, I read a long time ago certain books have a vibratory rate where you can get the knowledge that you get the essence of what you need just by carrying the book with you, having the book nearby. Might have been David Hawkins who wrote that, which
Mm,
is why some books have stood the test of time. Is
yeah.
there something that you that resonates so strongly with you that you feel you carry it with you, and it's your connection to that which is larger than the ego, that which is larger than our small belief of ourselves?
Well, I can't go too far anyway without my dowsing rods. I feel like they're my connection. But then again, I really don't need the dowsing rods,
Right.
if
Let's
that
talk about
makes
that.
sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
we could do.
Let's
We
talk
could
about
do.
dowsing.
Yeah.
How is that your connection?
Okay, well, it goes way back again. When I was very young, um, single figures again. My auntie, um, she used to do palmistry and tea leaf reading, and she pulled me aside one day. It was very quiet, and she taught me going through the entire hand, and she told me what my path would actually lead me to. And she said, "You've got many questions. All I see are questions, unanswered questions. And also, you know, I will have a son and a daughter in that order, you know, which is what I've got, you know."
Right.
And so that's always resonated with me. All my life I've thought, you know, I'm gonna have a boy first, I'm gonna have a girl second, you know. And even
Hey,
in the process when my wife was pregnant and she had my son in her belly, first of all, I did a dowsing pendulum over her belly, and it told me it was a boy, and I did the same thing, and it told me it was a girl when it was Florence. And so my wife is still a little bit skeptic, it's that kind of, how do I, she's obviously not resonating on the same frequency
Right.
that she is resonating, but, there's still many levels of frequencies to get through to actually acknowledge that there is something else.
Lee wants to know. Lee asked a very succinct question.
Mm.
What is a dowsing rod?
Okay. A dowsing rod is an extension of your body, but it's it's a tool allowing you to answer questions very much like Lucy does with her cards with a yes no answer. With the cards, depending on which way up they are and what cards they are, will tell a story, but it will also give a yes no result and tell the story at the same time. But with the dowsing rods, it's just a yes and no. And so with not only that, you can find water at different levels, and you can find out how deep the water is as well. And it's not just water, you can find pretty much anything you use with your intent. And that's the most important thing.
So,
It's the intent.
are the rods ever wrong, or is our translation of the rods
The translation,
misguided?
you have to be balanced. You can't go into it with, an emotional state. Just like anything, it's almost like a ritual. It's you have to be in a peace of mind where you are separate from everything else. You are asking the ultimate question, and nothing else around you is involved at the time, because it is just pure intent.
What, if you don't mind, Sharon? What is your um, what is your grounding technique? What is your balancing to before you douse? What do you do?
Before I dance, well, you have to have the feel of love. Okay, it's it's something that comes up from inside you, and it's almost like it's a warm feeling in the kind of shoulder blades and the chest area, not so much the throat, but you can feel this almost energy rise, and that is just pure love. And when I get that, then I almost ask a trick question to make sure that I am not being fooled. That's also the most important
Getting out of your way.
thing. You have your own little questions that you have, and only you can answer it, and your higher self can answer it.
Do you see any similarities between the kinesiology testing, the muscle testing, and dowsing?
Yes, well, it is all to do with your muscles. It is kinetics. It's the very, very slightest muscle, but it's also you're you're answering it before the questions even come. It comes through the thought. It's the moment you've thought of the question and you're about to say the question. I've had answers, and I've gone back to confirm them after. And it's
Do you think?
Hmm.
Do you liken your dowsing as a form of meditation?
Well, you have to get into that meditative state. That's that warm feeling of you're out of where
Right.
you are, and you've 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 physically changed from what was around you.
When you pick up the rods, at this point in your life? How many years have you been dowsing?
I've been dowsing for only about 15, 16 years,
So at
pretty
this
much.
point, you think you automatically, when you pick them up, you think you automatically enter that state now?
Um, no, because I've, I know not to pick the rods up when I'm in that kind of, if I'm not in that state. You know, I usually pick the rods up when I have a question, and I wait for that question for the right moment. I don't like. I know that it's not for my benefit to try if I'm not in that state. It just takes me 3 times as long, you know, and it is actually quite knackering, you know, believe it or not. Um,
Runner Boy asks, does he do the copper rod grounding as well?
yes, yeah. Um,
Hey, super artist.
I do electroculture as well, which is putting copper rods in a spiral form. And you basically you can have them either wrapped around a pole, and the pole is in the ground, and the copper is in the ground with the pole. You can create almost like an umbrella effect, which will maximize the area above the ground, which is what you really want, really.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many different ways, and that's just using copper, but
Right.
having it in a spiral. It
Lee
has to have a spiral as an antenna.
Lee wants to know how far back does dowsing go?
Oh well, if you were to open the Old Testament, it says that Moses found water with his staff. So that's, you know, you could say, you know, back then, um, you know, uh, it's been it's been used quite heavily in Australia, especially during the gold. It's been quite suppressed actually, but when the gold rush was in Australia, um, it's there's a lot of Australians that use it, and it's a generational gap now. It's the old timers that use it, you know.
Right.
Um,
You think they picked it up from the Aborigines?
quite possibly, quite possibly. I mean, the Aboriginals, they don't even need a stick, Eric. They just know. So this is what I'm saying. I get the gut feeling, which means I don't need the rods, you know.
Right. Have you tried without the rods yet?
Yeah, I there's a technique of just using your fingers. Um, my my auntie, I remember I get this message that comes through, and she keeps saying, "Try with your fingers, try with your fingers." And what it is that instead of having the rods that cross over if it's a yes or if it's a no, it opens up. You put your fingers together and you pull them apart. And it's whichever one breaks first. So if my right one breaks, that would be a yes indication. But if my left one breaks first, it would be a no.
Huh.
It's that simple. And I have memories of my auntie just sitting, you know, she's asking herself many questions throughout the day, and she's just doing this with her fingers. She's obviously writing down yes, no to all the questions that she's been answering. That's her. But yeah,
Um,
she used to work with Winston Churchill. My auntie, she was in the war room in Whitehall. So you know, putting all these together, there's a lot of the occult that has been used by the government, um, especially since the Second World War, especially what the Germans were looking into. They were looking into as much occult secrets as they possibly can to try and get any kind of, influence. There's all these stories that they went to Antarctica after the war, which goes into the aliens, even more of an occult kind of thing. But they use seers themselves, the three witches from Fuel.
Hey, speaking of occult, I don't know why it triggered Aleister Crowley. Do any studying of Aleister Crowley's works?
Yeah, I didn't delve into it too deep, just because of the material itself. I delved much deeper than that beforehand, and I kind of knew where he was leading to. He was trying to evoke the Abrahamic ritual, which is invoking all 72 archangels and demons at the same time, and opening up a portal, which supposedly he did at Loch Ness, in Scotland.
He
But he died a very twisted, deranged man, only about 30 miles from here, believe it or not.
Probably not the result of his practices, but more the result of overemphasizing opium. Might have been one of his downfalls. I mean, many of his practices were left-handed tantric yoga practices.
Yeah.
Um,
he was using the sex magic as well. There's of course the story, the swapping partners with Jack Parsons, which he then went on to start up NASA. So there's a whole connection of dark people starting dark things.
Right. Have you ever been drawn to any of the left-handed path, any of the more
No.
secretive occult stuff, or
I went down the path of the epistemists, and that's knowing that you can't have dark magic without light magic. It's that simple. It's the yin and the yang. Everything has to have balance.
I sort of answered this question for you, but definitely wanted to give your input on it. Lee had asked if dowsing could be used to predict something of the future, and I had mentioned that you've actually done it with boxing matches.
Yeah. A friend of mine was kind of, he was so skeptical. I went to the van and got my rods, and I just, within 3 minutes, I came back and I said, it's going to be a knockout in the 4th round. And we got to the 3rd round, and the guys that I'd spoken about had just been knocked down on the canvas. And it was a fresh round. And seconds into the next round, his first punch, he got knocked out. And they were just, like, why didn't you put any money on it? I was like, well, this is where it gets a bit dark, you see.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Yeah.
Do you draw your own line of using dowsing for profit? And now
I've been told not to.
And that is like across the board.
It was my first download. This is for me to experience, not to make gain from. It's for knowledge base only. The moment I gain from it, I've opened up a whole new timeline. It's quite hard to explain, but we all have two timelines that we step on and step off constantly without knowing. Mainly the collective consciousness is in both of them, but you yourself are only in one of them. So you can separate yourself from the collective consciousness, but you can find yourself slipping into the consciousness of the collective without even knowing.
Lee want to know dunking witches.
Dunking witches.
Is that somewhat related to dowsing at all?
Yeah. Basically, anyone that was taught that they had any kind of I'm not going to say gift, because everyone has it. So if everyone has it, it's just a tool. And if we don't use it, then it's no skin off your own nose. But if you use it and you realize what it can do, then there's power in that.
Right.
And those that do not want this to come out, which is again mixed with, the ones that say anything that is not from source or from their God is evil. Well, I'm saying this comes from source. Therefore, you must be saying that the God must be evil. I'm only connecting with pure love. Now,
what other tools do you use?
the tools. I smoke a lot. That is a tool. I don't know if you saw that video I sent you earlier.
Yeah. And if we use the term plant medicine, if you briefly,
yeah.
I think we can get away with a little bit of it.
Yeah. Well, it's been used for thousands of years. I mean, yes, again, it's in all the books. It's mentioned in all the books, and it's one of the most suppressed things in the world, and the most controversial things in the world, because in some places it's absolutely fine, yet you can travel 60 miles to a different state and you can get 3 years if you're found with it.
Wow.
So that has to make you question in itself.
What do you think of it as wanting to keep the regular person from one having power, knowing their own power, and knowing their own divinity? That we keep these things are illegal because, I ever talked about the stone ape theory?
No.
That evolution happened quicker than people think, and it didn't happen through natural selection so much as apes eating some plant medicine, and to use your term, downloading information using consciousness. I'm not saying that's
that
true.
would be an interesting narrative. That would be much more of a fun narrative than what we have been told. I think when we look at different cultures, when we look at medicine, we either have two things here. We have psychology, so we want to find out what's wrong with you first before we give you any medication. Whereas if you went to Peru and you saw a witch doctor, the witch doctor would tell you what's wrong with you. And it wouldn't be him telling you what's wrong with you. It would be the spirits telling her what's wrong with her through him. He's just a conduit.
Um,
Um,
what was
we didn't have
skating around?
we didn't have psychology until 1950, after the Second World War, after Operation Paperclip. And all these psychologists came from the Nuremberg. And they were scattered South America, Canada, especially Canada. And the same scientists, professors that started the psychology programs were also the ones that started the MK Ultra programs. And it was about 20 years when they realized, we can actually get into someone's brain and, they can almost hypnotize a person to stay in the same state that they're in instead of dealing with the problem. And that's almost like prolonging the problem. It's not finding the problem. It's not dealing with the problem. They're almost just repeating the problem.
Right.
Whereas the medical plant life allows you to see your fears without being afraid. Now, if you have a big ego, you're not going to like it. You're not going to like the plant medicine. Some people take one little puff and that's it. And they think, oh no, this is a psychotic experience. That's because they're not ready for it. They don't have the questions. They don't have any questions. And that's what it's all about, having questions.
You know what amazes me? An entire generation experimented with plant medicine. One thing that fascinates me is that a lot of people who brought in that decade, brought in the 60s, uh, were part of CIA experiments done at colleges, universities, other things, hospitals.
Project Aubergine.
And they were thinking of mind control.
Was it Aubergine?
And it had the exact opposite effect. Free thinking, long hair, pierced ears, marching for peace. But what happened? How did that generation turn around?
Happened in the late 80s, 90s. They were trying with a completely new drug that was supposedly for dieting, but it on the side effects was the most euphoric states that you could be in, and it just gave you the energy that you could dance for 10 hours.
Right. That was your scene for a while, wasn't it?
That was my scene for quite a long while. Yeah. And that again, it was a part of my life that I would never regret one second. I'd met some most amazing people, and those people were amazing because they stepped out of their comfort zones and they became someone that they wouldn't normally be. They were just themselves. They had no constrictions. They were hugging complete strangers, but with intent. With intent. This is the thing again. Within the loving intent.
Right. This is a theme. Hi, Cora. This is a thing, a theme that plays out through every one of my live streams. I'm so appreciative of the fact that uh, you and I resonate so strongly on the theme of unconditional love.
Mm.
Um, I just wanted to throw that in, but I want to circle back that to the entire generation being turned on and tuned in through plant
Yeah,
medicine,
yeah.
and then somewhere,
It was a big. I mean, they had to put propaganda out. You know, to go against what they had already started.
right? Um,
And then, of course, Hollywood jumped on the bandwagon, and then you had Cheech and Chong, and it
right.
became an overnight instant hit. You know,
But I
and
wonder,
even 10, 15 years, the new generation, there'll be a group that will always, you know, find that spiritual path through plant medicine.
here's the thing: you got turned on and tuned in through plant medicine, um, but you continued with that generation. The majority of them, they experienced this great collective awakening where everything changed and there was that sense of freedom. I mean, just think of the music that came out of nowhere. Think of music. Think of Neil Sedaka in 1961
It was
and
the
then
electrics. It
1966,
was
the Beatles.
as soon as the synthesizer came in, it was a
Right?
new, but nothing has advanced since then.
That's what I mean. Why did that whole generation collectively shrug and say, we were on the edge? We could have changed the world. We could have changed the earth. And instead they said, but let's go back and make some money. And I don't mean that in a
It's going to be greed. People were having too much fun at the end of the 90s. And then people were worried at 2000. That's all it was the change of the century. Just to even write the year 2000, people were like, Jesus, man. That's just 2,000 years from the time when people have been saying when Jesus was being born. They're actually there, experiencing it. And yet people are still talking about Jesus and the old stories. But yet there are older stories.
um so plant medicine.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a little switch here. They did studies in the 50s, and Bill W., the founder of AA, 12 Steps, believed it had great, great potential for ending alcoholism completely. This is a subject that is you and I have talked about before, but never face to face. Both you and I have battled our demons with alcohol and
Yeah.
stepped away from it. And I believe you stepped away with it with the same amount of grace that I did. You didn't battle. You didn't grit your teeth.
No,
And
no, it was an asking. It was a choice, and I took it, and I never looked back. And I knew that was the only thing that I could do, because it was such a circle. I was breaking the circle. I could see the circle was broken, and I vowed that it's just a mess. Looking back, that's what it was. It was just a mess, and I was just running from everything. Now I'm not running. I'm not running from anything.
um, how do you see outside that circle?
Um, I mean, I was a publican for quite a long time. I used to run bars, and I was the other side serving people drinks. So I knew how. I knew what kind of state other people were in and when not to serve them, you know. But I got to that stage where I thought, well, I'll just have 3 beers, 4 beers. I'll be okay with 4 beers, you know. And I just remember going, it was 6 or 7 beers. I can't remember. I'll just have another something else, you know. And it was like there is no stopping at what I said was going to happen. I said I was going to have 4 beers. It never happened. I was always lying to myself. I was trying to cut down, and it would never happen. And then it was just, you know, it was a weekend. It was a long week actually. It was a long week in hospital in Ibiza, and I ended up with pleurisy through drinking too much, and I got into a really bad flu. That turned into pleurisy. I had to have a stomach pump,
Wow.
and it was awful, absolutely awful. I was on a 1380 holiday, one of these party holidays. It's basically a free holiday that I took, and it was an absolute mess. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, to be honest.
Sounds like it.
And it was
Hey,
just to get drunk. I was just thinking back now, it's like, why?
thinking of worse. Speaking of worse experiences, I would imagine falling out of a tree and landing on a chainsaw might rank pretty high. But when you talk of it, it's almost as if you were given a gift at the same time.
Yep, yep. I
And you,
you know, looking back on it, I remember how hurt I was. You know, and I remember the 21 days in hospital, how hurt I was, and how hurt I was for the 2 years afterwards for recovery, and how you know, I'm talking now. I'm not even feeling my pain. It's only when you know I do something silly. I reach forward. You know, it's
can,
the
can you
things
share?
that you're not expecting to do.
Can you share the whole story
Yeah,
if you don't mind?
yeah. I was. It was a Friday. I remember that much. It was quite a long way from our home base, and it was just about 2.5 hours drive. So we kind of knew that we had to get the job done quite quick. It was almost that, you know, rush, rush, rush kind of mentality. Even from the first tree, and I think there was 5 trees that day, and I was on the last tree, and it was a big Scots pine, and it was leaning over the top of someone's house, and I'd gone all the way out and reduced bit by bit, hand by hand, and so there was just a pole left at 40 foot. I was at the very top, and I just carved a notch in the top to put my rope in to actually slide down, and I was taking my main anchor off after I'd double checked that I'd got my other side strop in. Basically, it's like a metal strop that goes around the tree. I put that on, and then I took my main line off, not knowing that the metal strop that I'd put in as my second line was only clipped into my jumper. Just it wasn't clipped into my harness. It was just clipped leisurely into my jumper. So when I leant back to then put my main line in, I just kept on leaning back. And 40 foot up, expecting not to lean back that far, was a new experience. So when falling through the sky, it did feel, you know, you hear stories of, oh, you know, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, you know. But I had this sense of this. First of all, it was fear because I didn't know what was happening, and then it was almost like you said, you just shrugged your shoulders. And the moment I kind of had that thought of, oh well, I had this sense of love. And then the next thing I remember, I'm looking at myself on the floor, and I see myself get up, and I see my two friends running across the field from where they were, from the other tree where they're working in. And then I see myself put myself in a recovery position. And the moment I see myself put in the recovery position, that's when I then snap out of it and I feel the pain and I'm back in myself. And it was the most horrific experience that I'd ever been. And I just wanted to go back to that outer body experience again, because there was no pain, there was nothing. I was just observer. There was, it didn't feel cold. It wasn't, it wasn't warm. There was nothing. It was just, I'm observing everything. And then the helicopter came and landed in the next field. The medics had to link up with the helicopter. There's like a ground crew that managed to get into the field. They had to come through a hedge, believe it or not. But then they had to cut off my chainsaw trousers, and they didn't have the the right kind of scissors, because chainsaw trousers are quite thick. You see, they're extremely thick, designed for that kind of, not to be cut. So it took a little while, and they said it was about an hour before they actually managed to get me from where I'd fell onto the gurney and onto the helicopter. I kind of, it was in and out of consciousness. I probably remember about 30 seconds of that hour, to be honest. And then there was also the trauma of when we got into London Hospital. I was on the gurney yet again for 11 hours before I was even in surgery, because there were 4 other people that were in a worse state than I was. Even though I had a shattered spine, there was 4 people at the time that were critical, because I was conscious and, I was still breathing. They could force feed me food and liquid for days before surgery if they needed to. But those 11 hours that was a hard 11 hours, because I was conscious pretty much all those 11 hours, and I was swearing at everyone, and I felt so bad. But then I also say to me, that wasn't me talking at the time. That was my injuries, and that was my pain. I think we say things that we certainly don't mean when we are in a completely different state of consciousness. And I think that comes from our programming of the unknown, the fear of the unknown.
So there's the story. What about the after effects? Your life from then on out.
Well, it's never stopped me from climbing trees. My first thing was to do was to get back up a tree, as soon as I could. And there's a few things that I want to get back into snowboarding again. My son's taken up snowboarding. So the least I could do is take him on at least one snowboarding holiday in his memory. I would have loved to have had that with my father. But it's, these small things, as I say, is a blessing in disguise. If you have to look at it, alchemize it in a way that can benefit you. I think if I was 20 years old when I had my accident. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have an 8 month baby on the way. You know, even though I was young, I didn't have much to live for if I had a broken back. And they said, the second day, 24 hours after surgery, get ready for the possibility of you never walking again. I was like, what are you talking about? That'd be silly.
So you had no doubt.
No, absolutely no doubt. Even before surgery, I was like, it's just not on the cards. It was never on the cards. If it's not on the cards, it's not on the cards. Lucy knows that.
True, true. So the insights you took away, and how are they affecting leading your life now in these moments?
Okay, well, knowing that there is nothing to be scared of. There's nothing. Whether it's bills.
I appreciate hearing that.
No, honestly,
I know, I agree, but I appreciate hearing that.
honestly, don't worry about anything.
You're resonating very much with lessons from A Course in Miracles, that when they talk about nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal
Exactly that.
exists.
Exactly.
Therein lies the peace of God.
You can only threaten yourself
Right. If
with
we are, go ahead, please.
with illusions that you create yourself, with disbeliefs that you've created yourself. I try and be as open-minded as possible, which means you have to, also think about your programmed disbeliefs, because that's part of your this is part of being an epistemic, is seeing everything from the same oneness, that there is a polarity and a duality of everything that is here.
Um, the Course speaks right in the introduction that um, the opposite of love is fear, except that which is all encompassing can truly have no opposite, that can have the belief in an opposite. And that's where I get the don't worry, because the fear of lack, the fear of not having money, the fear of bills it's fear,
Okay.
meaning
So
it doesn't
if
exist.
you project the fear, it's real.
Yep. And
It's that simple.
you and
It's
I
that simple. And I
talked
see
quite a
so
bit
many
about.
people in the chat. I love everyone, but there are so many comments about fear and that they hate themselves, and it's prolonging the now. Be in the now, draw the love that's in the chat, and use that and top up what love you have that you had before. When you realize you've got more love inside you just by being in the now, it will help you.
I had a conversation before this live stream with Kat and Jack, and I shared something with her that I've seen several times. Someone comes in on the live stream, specifically in the morning, and they'll say, "What's this channel about?" And you give such a wonderful answer that breaks my heart open every time I hear it. And you say, unconditional love. This is where we experience and share unconditional love, or very often you'll say it's about forgiveness. You're that succinct sincerity that you put out explaining my channel endears you to my heart every single time that you do it. I consider you a soul friend.
I wish we could put unconditional love into one word. Make it even shorter.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, man, I'm gonna
Luca's
wrap
got
things
another
up.
question. Someone did say something about wars. Why are there wars? Well, it's because we create them. It's nothing else. We create them. There is, put it this way, there's one company that creates the ammunition. Yeah. The ammunition is the same ammunition that's used on both sides. So wars are created for profit. Where does the profit come from? It comes from taxpayers. Do we have a say in any of where our taxes go? No. So we are not in control of any of the wars that are happening. So do not get involved with the wars that are happening. It is not our war. If they want to stop the wars, we stop paying for the wars.
Um, and we can heal our projections. Imagine if
Yeah,
we no longer projected even the need
yeah,
for war. And as there's only the collective consciousness, um, when it begins with one person, uh, as the micro, so goes the macro. So
exactly. Well, the monkey effect. There's a
I love
lot
that.
more than 100 of us.
Right, I love that story. Can you
Yeah,
tell Can you tell people what the 100 monkey effect is?
yeah. It was a story, an observation on an island where there was a type of monkey that found the grain in the sand, and all the monkeys were picking the grains out of the sand, and it was taking forever picking the rice, each individual rice, and it was taking them longer. They weren't even getting nourishment from it because it was taking longer. Until one day, one of them realized if they placed their hand in the water, just ever so gently, the sand dropped to the bottom of their hand and the rice floated. With the other hand, they came in and picked the rice off the top of the water. And within, I think it was not even a whole day, by the end of the day, all the monkeys on the island were learning how to do this.
And not only that, on other islands that
Yeah,
never experienced those same conditions
exactly
started
that.
to do it.
It's almost like a download had happened, a conscious download. When
So,
something new has experienced, it has to be shared. And if it wasn't going to be one of the monkeys that got that download, it would have been another one of the monkeys that got that download.
hey, how does that um, relate to your view on personal responsibility? If there's a collective consciousness, what role does personal responsibility, how you think, um, the thoughts that
Well,
you hold in
it's
your
just
heart?
like you, whatever happens to you yourself, you you don't want anything to happen to someone else that you wouldn't want done to you. That's the simplest as I could have it. You know, we all will make mistakes. We can all be right and we can all be wrong, but we don't have to bring violence against someone's opinion because they believe they're wrong. We can work it out. You know, nothing should bring it to violence unless it's been taught in an extreme way, and there is violence within the teaching.
You know what gives me big hope is that collective consciousness that as man thinketh. So one person being that the beginning of the 100th monkey, and who's to say who that 100th monkey is going to be? Maybe it's going to be Squirrel Sniper. Maybe it's going to be me. But
Exactly.
we add to it. We're each a collective monkey in the big monkeyness of the world.
Yeah. Well, I think the veil is thinning, and it will thin, and it will keep on getting thinner. I've noticed synchronicities getting stronger and stronger. Maybe I haven't been paying more attention when I was younger, and there was just as many synchronicities, but I don't get that sense. The way that these synchronicities are coming in, maybe 2 a day now, and before it was maybe 3 a week.
We've had that between you and I. We've experienced quite a few synchronistic events.
Yeah, I can say, like, I have this vision in my head of a color and a number, or something. It's a weird combination of either a shape and a color or a number and a color, and then something happens throughout the day, and it's exactly it just throws it in my face, and it's like, wow, it's quite crazy.
I'm going to interrupt for a second because Super Champ says, Yogi, can you tell Sniper he's amazing and doing amazing work as both a moderator and a human being?
Oh, thanks, man.
I gotta agree. With
try and
Super
be me.
Champ.
That's it. I try not to be anything else that I'm not. And I think you find that anyone that does, it shows.
I'm gonna wrap things up in a minute, but I'm glad Super Champ said that because I want to ask you about a moderator. You being a moderator, how did you're a big moderator on many large channels, but here's what I want to know: how did I get so fortunate to have Squirrel Sniper in my corner and have him back? And I mean that. I consider myself so fortunate to have you in my corner as my friend.
I was, I'll be honest, I was at quite a low stage actually when I first came in. Very similar to Eric Lapointe, really. I was a little bit lost myself, to be honest. With all this that I've been working with, I'm quite also questioning whether or not if it's even, because my wife doesn't do any of this. She meets me halfway most of the time. My daughter, she can douse. My son's not interested. But when I came to you, and you were saying that, that you had struggles religiously, and it was a spiritual walk from then on. It's exactly how I've kind of not so much battled, because I stepped away from it. It wasn't a battle. It's having that inquisitive mind, and I think you've kind of helped me settle and find that balance again in my daily routine, which is what I've needed. I think that's the most important thing, that everyone does have a routine, but it's also, I do have this thing about breaking patterns, but patterns are good and patterns are bad. We all have good patterns. It's when it becomes a habit, it's not a pattern. That's when, you know.
I'm thankful every day for you being here
Thank you
because
for you coming up.
It fills me with confidence that my back and that you have from day one. Because again, going back to that alignment, I know that you know how I think and how I feel, and you do it all with such kindness and no hard feelings. You don't do
Well,
anything out of malice.
I hope everyone in the chat, understands that I do have everyone's intentions and everyone's back. I mean, is a few that think that it's completely opposite way. But time will be the healer of that. I know that for a fact.
We've seen
And
it before.
to say that I've never got someone's back because I wouldn't delete someone who I knew that was joking is just a ridiculous statement in itself. Which isn't, saying anything bad to that person. It's just that there's possibly some insecurity, but then that's all about getting that security and finding out about us. We're all a great bunch here.
Many might not realize that this is not our first rodeo as far as difficult
Yeah,
situations,
we
events, and
should
people.
be quite used to this now.
Right. I do want to mention, I am assembling. Sniper and I talked about this a few days ago. That we basically have a little different policy in effect right now. That we're not indiscriminately timing people out because of every little comment or twerk. But if it's an attack, if it is overly too many grievances directed at someone all at once, we will ask someone to be kind and respectful. And if they don't, they get a brief timeout. If they come back with the same attitude, they're timed out for the day. And the next day, or whenever they come back, they are welcomed back as a friend. Nothing to prove. Pick up, fresh start. If the situation
Absolutely.
repeats, we just keep doing it. Because everyone, Kat did a wonderful example of this on her channel. Everyone gets a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance because how many times in life have we wished that we could have gotten another chance? And
yeah. It's just that, as you say, the moment of pause, it just lets the chat continue to flow and it doesn't disrupt the rest of the chat, and it gives the person a chance to think about why they've put themselves in that position. And if they've still got that problem, then they would have been ejected for a question that they need to ask themselves, not the chat. They need to look at themselves.
Agreed. I needed to find a way to handle some things in a way that aligned with the reason I have a channel for how I generally and sincerely live my life every single day, offline
Well,
and online.
The negative intent that comes in with some of the one-liners. I've been just sweeping them aside straight away. You know exactly what their intent is. No matter how many times you're going to delete that and they put the next one, it's only going to go down that road.
You and I ask for only one thing from a troll when they announce themselves.
Be clever.
Exactly.
And if you can't be clever, you're a very terrible troll.
Yep.
you're
Come
not
back,
even
practice,
worthy of being a troll.
practice somewhere else. Come in and bring your A game.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, one of the funniest was, and this happened not too long ago. Eric Lapointe was there. I think you were here when Jason and I were up together, and someone said you two look like a before and after experiment that went wrong,
it went wrong.
and that just had me cracking up for the rest of the live stream. But trolls serve a purpose of showing us where our buttons are, and it's up to us to eliminate the
Yeah,
buttons. Someone's
yeah,
always going to be there to press them. Hey, Joe.
yeah. But 99% of the trolls are actually just, you know, it's this generation of lost too much time typing unnecessary energy wasted. That's all it is.
It is. I appreciate that you gave me time to figure out a way to navigate this, and that you picked it up and ran with it right from the bat. You were like, "That's it. That's how we do it." Thank you for that, because
That's good.
not everyone, uh, not everyone saw it that way, along with me, which is fine, because everyone needs to do what they need to do to be comfortable in this life. And if there's a place or situation that doesn't make you feel comfortable, um, then by all means, I want nothing more for the people that I love than to have them feel safe and secure. Um, for me, my personal mission is to help people see that wherever you go, you can take that safety and security. And I love your message on uh, fear that you talked about. There's no need for it. If you have your faith in, for me, I'm going to use the word God. I know that you would probably use a different word, but both you and I know it means the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, creator or source, or it's just the stigma with the letter word, as kind of when I see unconditional love, I just think of God and reverse it, and you have dog, and that's all I see from my Cosmo when I look at his eyes. There's nothing else that he wants except me, you know. He's absolutely exhausted. I've just taken him on a 2-hour walk, and he's absolutely exhausted, so he's fast asleep now, thank goodness. But
Right.
yeah, that's all he wants other than food is just meat, and I can see that. He follows me everywhere in the house. His eyes, even if I'm picking the cat up, his tail goes because he's enjoying that the cat's having a stroke because I'm stroking the cat.
You've heard me read Rumi's poem "Love Dogs," and he
Yep.
talks about listen to the whine of a dog for its master. That's the connection.
Yeah.
That's the connection.
What gets me, is some of the dogs that sit at the graves. And that really gets me. You know. Yeah.
All right, Sniper, I'm going to head to bed, my friend.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't
Thanks
mind,
everyone in the chat.
if you don't mind, we can make
Thanks
this
all for
a
being here.
regular thing. Whenever you just give the word,
Yeah, that'd be great.
we'll have a night with Sniper.
Yeah, sounds good.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, we could go into some esoterical stuff. We could deal in some. I've got a few old alchemy books. I've got a couple of what a 17th century almanac. I did a reading all about beekeeping from that. That was really good. But yeah, there's loads of old things that really interested me that took me a while to find, you know, and they're so interesting that everyone should know, you know, and they're hidden everywhere. These little gems of, you know, and everything's connected. Everything is connected. That's a whole nother game.
Yeah, I agree. We have infinite directions that we can take these conversations. So let's explore them all.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you, Sniper. Thank you, chat.
Night, Eric. Night, all. I'll jump back in
Good night,
the chat and say goodbye to everyone.
You got
Take
it.
care,
I'll give you
all.
a few minutes.
Yeah, all right.
Sniper's heading into the chat. Hey guys, I asked this before, but I probably missed the answer. Did anyone check on Jessica, how her live stream is doing? Song ahead, my friend. Hello. So I want to thank everyone for coming here and showing so much love for Squirrel Sniper. He deserves it all because he's the top mod on my channel, but he's everyone's top mod. If he is in your live stream and he's wrenched up, he's looking after you. If he's not wrenched up, he's still looking after you. She was okay 20 minutes ago. Thank you, Kat. All right. All I need to know. Man, I enjoyed this. It's Tuesday. It's only Tuesday. And I had a day with Miss Flipper. I had a day with Squirrel Sniper. Thursday, I have a day with Lucy, pulling cards. And then Friday, if anyone wants, we sing. What awesome. Oh, I had a day with Toy Pups. Toy Pups came. I want Toy Pups to have her own time slot here as well, whenever she wants. Not just coming up for a little bit, but I think you guys know the place Toy Pups has in my heart. That how much she has helped me, not just as a YouTube channel, but as a friend, being there, being a sounding board, and how much fun I have with her. Private conversations with Toy Pups, I laugh pretty hard. So I'm going to go to bed. Oh, Jess says she is cold wrapped. I remember her saying this morning that it was going to be a cold night. Was it going to be a cold day, not out of 70? If that's the high for the day, then the night's got to be pretty cold. Wrapped in a heated blanket. Good otherwise. Nice. I'm glad she's live streaming, and I'm glad that it's going well. Twip Up says that's because I'm hilarious. You are hilarious. Kat says Jessica is live now. All right, I will see if I can pop in right before bed. And speaking of bed, guys, that is where I'm heading. Love you guys. Big Al, I don't know if you're still here. Thank you. As I mentioned, we got a crack squad of awesome moderators who are aligned with how we are. You know, the point of the channel. One of it says, eat more peas. ADP would be eating more peas. If I had one a year, if I had one per decade, I would be following Runner Boy's instructions. I would be eating more peas. If I had one in my entire adult life, I would still be eating more peas. So, Runner Boy, would one pea suffice? Would one pea make you happy? If I eat one pea before you climb Mount Kilimanjaro, will you scream my name from the top of the mountain? Sniper says, Eric LaPointe, I forgot my ants. Eric LaPointe says, bye everyone, and another great live. Thank you, Eric LaPointe. All right. Dip says, Eric, stay sexy. Guys, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to get to the store by tomorrow to get a pea. And can I buy a pea? Can I buy one? If I went to the supermarket and said I'd like to purchase one pea, can I do that? And if I can't, why not? Do I really want to belong to a world where they won't serve you one pea? No one said anything. No one said anything about mushy. This is Levy Eric Lapointe. And it says the highest can of mushy peas. One boy staff and says, whenever I'm sure I'll be there to see it. I'll let you know. I'll have it. Thanks for the unicorn vibes. All right. Pea, please. That's all I'm asking for. Don't need to wrap it up. I'll take it to go. Dip says rice and peas rock. I partly agree with you. I might know someone who grows a pea. All right. I did not mean to extend this conversation talking about peas. I did not mean to extend this conversation. You guys have the longest good nights ever. You know me. When I say goodnight, I say goodnight. I'm done. I'm ready to call it a night. I go to bed. I'm very succinct that way. I don't drag things out. I don't say that same thing over and over and over and over again. I don't repeat myself. I don't find different ways of saying the same thing. I just say goodnight and I go to bed. You guys are a bad influence on me. I say goodnight and I'm done. Deb says, made Yogi smile. My work is done. Well done, Debs. Well done. And I appreciate that. Buy a pea with a toothpick. I'm going to see what I can do. I will definitely not buy bulk. I probably could buy bulk. One pea, right? Uncooked. No one said anything about cooking. I would eat a raw pea. I can do that. I will do that. No one ever said anything about cooking. I just found a loophole. Ha. It's a good thing that you guys kept me up. Deb says, happy, 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 everyone. Hey, Debs. Thank you so much for coming in, my friend. I very much appreciate that. And I love you. As I love you all. Lucy is laughing. Did Yogi say he'd eat a pea? I did not say I'd eat a pea. I said I'd eat a raw pea. An undone, a dried pea, even better. Yes, I could eat a dry pea. Guys, get your mind out of the gutter and let me go to bed. I know you're trying to get me to say something. You guys do that all the time, and then someone makes a clip of it, and it haunts me forever on the internet. I'm worried other things might haunt me on the internet, and I have one word to say to Cat and Jack: shimmy. Nightmare. Thanks, Nightmare. I don't believe this is the first thing that he's ever clipped of me, by the way. As a matter of fact, I know for certain that it is not the first thing that he's ever clipped. All right. At least he says, Nightmare, oh my God. I know how it is. Let's torture the old guy. I've been there before. All right. With that, Deb says, I got a crown, my life complete. Well deserved. Nightmare says, apologies. You don't apologize. what makes Nightmare, here's what I love about Nightmare. Many things, but he'll make a clip. He'll get me to say something. He will start a prank saying happy birthday 4 months before my birthday and say it every single live stream. But he does it all with such a pure heart. Like no malice whatsoever. Zero malice and Nightmare. I can't help but just laugh along with him. Nightmare stole your crown. Hey, the nerve of that, Nightmare. Running Boy says, Zeb, life highs leaves fast. All right. I am off to bed. Simple says the ego, let it go. There you go. You guys at number 3 was nice while it lasted. You might be working your way up to number 1 though, Debs. Who is number 1? All right. Guys. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be saying goodnight. Longest outro ever. This is true. Thank you, Toy Pops. All right, with that, I really am saying goodnight. It's past my bedtime, way past my bedtime. It was worth it though. It was worth it hanging out, talking with Sniper. It was worth it to hang out with you guys. Toy Pup says, I can't believe how long it takes Yogi to say goodbye. I don't know who takes longer, Toy Pups, me or you. Let go of my ego. I love that. All right, that's it. I'm leaving. Bye, you guys. Love you.